the record button here.
Yeah, okay. Can you record it then?
Okay, it means live. Okay, that must be the live streaming happening.
Okay, live streaming is.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Very happy to see everyone here and happy to see Roger Leliva back again, who will be our presenter later on. And I'll introduce Roger properly after the devotional program. So,
Sorry, Colin, can you wait? Because I think something is wrong with my sharing. Can you see the screen?
yeah, I can see it.
Okay. What are you seeing?
The order of proceedings.
Okay. In full screen or?
Yeah, it looks like full screen. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
So welcome everybody, and I'd just like to begin by honouring the Indigenous people and the land. In our case, the Paramank people in South Australia, where I'm visiting, the Gadigal and Bidjigal people in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, where Jung and I live, and I'm sure all of us, wherever we are on land which has been owned and cared for by Indigenous people. So thank you for that. All right, so a little later we'll have a presentation by Roger Leliva on the biblical Messiah and Baha'u'llah. But first we have a short devotional program with some music and then the readings. Before we start that, Marina, would you be able to read number 8 when it comes up?
Yep, sure.
Wonderful. Thanks, Marina.
Please mute yourself.
न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः अच्छेद्योऽयमदाह्योऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च अच्छेद्योऽयमदाह्योऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतः स्थाणुरचलोऽयम् सनातनः नित्यः सर्वगतः स्थाणुरचलोऽयम् सनातनः
For I will take you from shall be my peace.
The body is the physical or animal degree of man. On the bodily point of view, man is a share of the animal kingdom. The bodies like of man and animal are composed of elements held together by the law of attraction. Like the animal, man possesses affected faculties of the sense. Is subject to heat, cold, and taste, etc. Unlike the animal, man has a rational soul, the human intelligence. The spirit of man has speaking, but it has no hands. It continues internally. The rational soul, meaning of the human spirit, does not descend into the body. That is to say, it does not enter it. For descent and entrance are dialectics of body, and the rational soul is except from this. The spirit never enter this body, so in quitting it, it will not be in need of an abiding place. No, the spirit is connected with the body as the light is with this mirror. When the mirror is clear and perfect, the light of the lamp will appear in it. When the mirror become covered with the dust or break, the light will disappear. The spirit does not need a body, but the body needs a spirit, or you cannot live. The soul can live without a body, but the body without a soul die. Baha'i scripture, Abdul Baha.
I appeal to you, brothers, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree with one another so that there may be no divisions amongst you, and that you may be perfectly united in mind and thought. Finally, brothers and sisters, rejoice. Strive for full restoration, encourage one another, be of one mind, live in peace, and the Lord of love and peace will be with you. There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and one in mind.
O Son of Being, with the hands of power I made thee, and with the fingers of strength I created thee. And within thee have I placed the essence of my light. Be thou content with it, and seek naught else. For my work is perfect, and my command is binding. Question it not, nor have a doubt thereof. Baha'u'llah, hidden words. O child of men, know ye not why we created you all from the same dust? That no one should exalt himself over the other. Ponder at all times in your hearts how ye were created. Since we have created you all from one same substance, it is incumbent on you to be even as one soul, to walk with the same feet, eat with the same mouth, and dwell in the same land, that from your inmost being, by your deeds and actions, the signs of oneness and the essence of detachment may be made manifest. Such is my counsel to you, O conquerors of light. Heed ye this counsel, that ye may obtain the fruit of holiness from the tree of wondrous glory. Baha'u'llah, Eden Boards, Arabic.
The one who strikes others is not a hermit. One is not an ascetic who insults others. Not to blame, not to strike, to live restrained under the law, to be moderate in eating, to live alone, and to practice the highest consciousness. This is the teachings of the awakened ones. Blessed is the arising of the awakened. Blessed is the teaching of the truth. Blessed is the harmony of the community. Blessed is the devotion of those who live in peace. Let us live in joy, not hating those who hate us. Among those who hate us, we live free of hate. Let us live in joy, free from greed among the greedy. Among those who are greedy, we live free of greed. Now let us live in joy, though we possess nothing. Let us live feeding on joy, like the bright gods. Dhammapada, Sayings of the Buddha, 2nd.
I say to thee, weapons reach not the life, flame burns it not, waters cannot overwhelm, nor dry winds wither it. Impenetrable, unentered, unassailed, unharmed, untouched, immortal, all arriving, stable, sure, invisible, ineffable, by word and thought, uncompassed, even all itself. Thus is the soul declared. Govern thy heart, constrain the entangled sense, resist the false, soft sinfulness which saps knowledge and judgment. Yea, the world is strong, but what discerns it stronger, and the mind strongest, and high o'er all the ruling soul. Wherefore, perceiving him who reigns supreme, put forth full force of soul in thine own soul. Bhagavad Gita, Hindu Scriptures.
The believers are nothing else than brothers in Islam. So make reconciliation between your brothers and fear Allah that you may receive mercy. O mankind, we created you for male and female and made you into nations and tribes, that ye may know each other, not that ye may despise each other. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of Allah is he who is the most brightest of you, and Allah has full knowledge and is fully informed. Quran. Arabs have no superiority over non-Arabs, and non-Arabs have no superiority over Arabs. You are all equal except the piety and good actions. I leave behind me two things, the Quran and my example, the Sunnah, and if you follow this, you will never go astray. The similitude of believers in regard to mutual love, affection, and fellow feeling is that of one body. When any limb of it aches, the whole body aches because of sleeplessness and fever. Islamic Scriptures.
Thou hast asked me concerning the nature of the soul. Know verily that the soul is a sign of God, a heavenly gem, whose reality the most learned of men had failed to grasp, and whose mystery no mind, however acute, can ever hope to unravel. It is the first among all created things to declare the excellence of its creator, the first to recognize his glory, to cleave to his truth, to bow down in adoration before him. If it be faithful to God, it will reflect his light and will eventually return unto him. If it fail, however, its allegiance to its creator, it will become a victim of self and passion. and will in the end sink in their depths. Baha'i Scriptures.
Know thou that the soul of man is exalted above, and is independent of all infirmities of body or mind. That a sick person showeth signs of weakness is due to the hindrances that interpose themselves between his soul and his body. For the soul itself remaineth unaffected by any bodily ailments. Consider the light of the lamp. Though an external object may interfere with its radiance, the light itself continueth to shine with undiminished power. In like manner, every malady afflicting the body of man is an impediment that prevents the soul from manifesting its inherent might and power. When it leaveth the body, however, it will evince such ascendancy and reveal such influence as no force on earth can equal. Every pure, every refined and sanctified soul will be endowed with tremendous power and shall rejoice with exceeding gladness. Baha'i Scriptures.
Together the hearts unite and bind. Together the hearts join in the chord all the souls. Join in the chord all the souls. Oh Lord, make these faces radiant through the light of thy oneness. Unite and bind together the hearts. Unite and bind together. Join in the chord all the souls. Join in the chord all the souls. Oh Lord, make these faces radiant through the light of thy oneness. Unite and bind together. These faces radiant through the light of thy oneness. Unite and bind together the hearts. Unite and bind together. joining the chord of the soul, joining the chord of the soul. Oh Lord, make His faces radiant through the light of Thy wonders.
Well, thank you very much to the readers and for the selection of readings and music. Now, my very great pleasure to welcome back Roger Lalivre. And Roger is a Baha'i, originally a Christian. He discovered the Baha'i faith and looked at the signs and accepted the Baha'i faith. He's a researcher and author, and he's been described as a peace activist. And I'm aware, since I used to serve on the Association for Baha'i Studies, that Roger has been contributing to and publishing in Baha'i scholarship for more than 25 years. And so Roger is going to talk to us tonight about the biblical Messiah and Baha'u'llah. So over to you, Roger.
Thanks, Colin, for that nice introduction. So I'm going to talk about the biblical Messiah and Baha'u'llah and the relationship between the two. And what I'm going to do is try and tell a story about the Bible and looking at, there's many ways of reading the Bible, but one way of reading the Bible is looking at as a story like you would read Harry Potter, or you would read the line The Witch in the Wardrobe. And it's, if you read those sort of fictional stories, there's always a prophecy. There's always the book is about a single person, and in Harry Potter, it's about Harry Potter. And there's early on in the story, there's this great story about Harry Potter and his potentialities, and you find that the story ultimately is all about one person. And I haven't read the line The Witch in the Wardrobe, but I've seen parts of the movie, and there's always this line, Arsalan, and the story is about Arsalan, you know, and how and his effect on this particular story. So the Bible can be read in a similar way, I believe, anyhow. And so I've got a few passages from the Bible, and we'll just go through it and we'll talk about it and discuss it and see if we have any, if we can and view the Bible in a slightly different way as a result of the end of the meaning. But can everyone see the spreadsheet that I've shared, Colin? Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it. It's
Yeah.
Can everyone else see it? I can't see it myself, but
Yes.
Yes, we can see.
you can see it. Okay.
Yep.
So, if it's possible, could I ask someone? I've got a passage there from Genesis 37:9. I'm just wondering if anybody can read that passage out.
Yep.
Yeah, I can
I'll
read it.
Yep.
All right, Genesis 37:9. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And obeisance is a gesture expressing deferential respect, such as a bow or curtsy.
Okay, thanks for that, Colin. So this is a story, it's going back and it's talking about Jacob, and he's had this dream, and he's told his brothers, and everyone knows the story of Jacob. The brothers found out about Jacob, and they put him in a well and left him to die. But basically what they were jealous about is this dream where the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down before him. So the last time I was on, we spoke a little bit about the sun and the moon and the stars and what they represent. And, my conclusion was that the sun represents the eternal sun that keeps coming every 1,000 years, and it's a manifestation of God. And on Tuesday it might be called Buddha, and on Wednesday it might be called Krishna, or on Thursday it might be called Jesus, but essentially it's the same sun. They're different days of the week, but every 1,000 years a manifestation of God comes along. And so in Genesis 1:3, what I'm trying to do now is to find a biblical justification for progressive revelation. So we've got the story of Joseph, and we've got Genesis 1. It talks about the creation of the world, and it says the world was made in 7 days. Now, as Baha'is, we know that there's 9 manifestations of God in the cycle of that we now know as the Baha'i cycle, and it starts from Adam. Just from memory, it goes from Adam, Krishna, Zoroaster, Buddha, Christ, Muhammad, Moses, Christ, Muhammad, the Bab, and Baha'u'llah. So there's 9 manifestations of God. But if we read through Genesis, it says Genesis 1:3, and God said, "Let there be spiritual light," and there was light, and God called. So the spiritual is my emphasis that we talked about last time. So God said, "Let there be spiritual light," and there was light, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning was the first day. So we're just talking about the first day, and a day comprises a night and a day starting in the evening and ending in the morning. The sun for the day, the moon for the stars for the night, and each day is 1,000 years. So if we look over at 2 Peter 3:8, it says, "But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is with one day." So each day represents 1,000 years. Each manifestation of God comes every 1,000 years. So each of these 7 days represents 1,000 years of manifestation of God. And this corresponds with each manifestation of God, Adam and the Bab. So the Adam and the Bab revelation included a day but no night. So if people think about Adam, there's always a moon and a star, with each manifestation of God. For example, with Christ, he was the sun and Peter was the moon. So the moon represents the person that organizes the religion after the manifestation of God and creates a religion. So when you have stars, you have saints. So in Moses' time, Moses was the sun, and Aaron, which was his brother, was the high priest, and he was the moon, and all the different prophets were the stars in the Jewish heaven. But with Adam, does anybody know if there was a moon in Adam's religion? And does anyone know what religion Adam created?
Is it Muslim? Islam?
Well, Islam came a little bit later, but Islam does talk about Adam.
Yeah, it's got a bit of half moon.
That's right, yeah. So, and the other thing is with the Bab, after he died, he passed on the administration of the Babi religion to Baha'u'llah's half-brother. And basically, Baha'u'llah received revelation straight away. So his half-brother never really had control of the religion. So he never really was the moon. So the Bab and Adam, there was a sun but no moon. So these 7 days, I mean, it appears to me that out of the 9 manifestations of God that Baha'u'llah talks about, only 7 of them had a sun, a moon, and stars. And the moon and stars represents a religion. So there's 9 manifestations of God, but only 7 religions. And so the Genesis talks about 7 days. The world was created in 7 days. And if we go down a little bit more, we can see that if you put these 7 days in order, you get Krishna is on day 1, and God created the heaven, the earth, and light. And Zoroaster on day 2, he created heaven. Moses on day 3, he created the earth, herbs, trees, fruit. Buddha was on day 4, he created the sun, moon, and stars. Christ was on day 5, and they created moving creatures. Muhammad was day 6, and man was created on day 6. And Baha'u'llah was on day 7, so that's the day of rest. So if you notice that each day, the things are progressing. So we're starting off with, vegetation, and then we're getting animals, and then we're getting humans. So as you can see, each day becomes more complicated and more progressive. So, the whole creation of the world in 7 days is a progressive process that takes 7 manifestations of God, and each time a manifestation of God comes, then society progresses a little bit further. So just reiterating, these are not different suns, rather they're different days. The sun remains the same. The one eternal God repeats in cycles like fruit on a tree, each year bringing forth the same fruit. Can you say the fruit of last year is the same with the fruit of this year? And yes. Can you say that Moses and Christ had the same spirit? Behold says yes. There is no distinction. This is why Christ was the return. This is why the 7 days representing 7 messengers of God brought 7 religions. Each religion is a return of the same sun on a different day. Once you realize and accept all the 7 messengers are one in spirit, basically you've become a Baha'i. Once you see the eternal in the repetition, so once you see that each religion is a repetition of the previous religion, then you basically understand divine philosophy. So if we go back to, now that we sort of talked about the sun, moon, and the stars, if we go back to Joseph, he had a dream where the sun, moon, and the 11 stars bowed down towards him. So he had this dream where each of the manifestations of God, which are the sun, and each of the moon, which is the religion and the holy people, would all bow down before him. So he's talking, this is in Genesis, he's talking about stories that happened before before Moses came along. So Moses was the sun, Aaron was the moon, and all the prophets of the Jewish religion bowed down to Joseph, and all of the prophets, or the sun, moon, and stars of the Christian religion, bowed down towards Joseph, and all of the sun, moon, and stars in the Islamic religion bow down to Joseph, and the sun, moon, and stars in the Baha'i religion bow down to Joseph. So he is one of the forebearers of all these religions. So I'll just move on to the next part of the Bible. So I'm trying to build a bit of a picture here, just taking various quotes from the Bible, and just trying to build a little bit of a picture of who the Messiah is, and how, because essentially, if you go into Psalms, read the book of Psalms and the book of Isaiah, these books are all about the Messiah. And the Messiah in Hebrew means the anointed one, or a manifestation of God. So is anyone able to read the next one? I've got Numbers 24:17. Is anyone able to read that for me?
Yeah, I'll do that. I shall see him, but not now. I behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroy all the children of Sheth. Star prophecy. Pardon me. Isaiah. Yeah, okay. Do you want me to
continue? Yeah, go through the next one as well.
Yeah, Isaiah 11:10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. Deuteronomy 31-5.
Okay, that was Marina, was it? Sorry.
Yep.
Yep. Thanks for that, Marina. So the first one, it talks about a star out of Jacob. And does anyone know? Everyone would have seen the Star of Jacob, or the Jewish star, the 5-pointed star. Everyone's aware of this, the star, the Jewish star. So this is basically where that symbol comes from. So the symbol comes from Numbers 24:17. So if you saw, whenever you see a Jewish flag or a Jewish sign, or even during the during the Nazi period, all of the Jews had a Star of David on them. So this star is coming from this particular passage. And it's basically, and because it's talking about someone with a lot of power and might, for he smites the corners of Moab and destroys all the children of Sheth, it's often referred to by Jews as referring to the Messiah ben David, or the Messiah who is the son of David. So it's all about authority. So the Messiah, or the anointed one, is someone with authority. And so the next one is, I'll go, first of all, I'll read Deuteronomy myself, and then I'll get someone to read Isaiah 9:6. But Deuteronomy says, "And it shall come to pass, and all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curse, the Lord thy God will return and gather thee from all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possess, and they shall possess it." So this particular passage, which is in the first 5 books, it's Deuteronomy is the 5th book. It talks about the Lord thy God will return. So it clearly states that the Messiah will return, and when he returns, he will gather all of the Jewish people from all the nations that they've been scattered in. So the Jewish people will be scattered all throughout Europe, all throughout America, all throughout Africa and Australia and Asia, and they'll all be brought back to the land which thy fathers possessed. So that's Israel, and they shall possess it. So this is a prophecy saying that that God will return, and when he returns, he will then get all the Jewish people to return to the land which they previously possessed. And so Baha'u'llah was driven, or he was exiled by the Turkish government, by the Ottoman Empire, to Palestine in 1868. And if you go into Wikipedia and try to find out when the ingathering of the Jews began, so if you try to research the year that Jews started to return to Israel, or was Palestine back then often it's mentioned 1868 is the beginning of this return. So there was this he was a religious figure called Judah ben Shalom. He was a Jew living in Yemen, and he created this movement, and he told all of his believers to go and relocate to Jerusalem because the Messiah had arrived. And this is 1868, the same year that Baha'u'llah arrived in Akka. So that's a little bit of an aside. So I'll just move on now to Isaiah 9:6. Is there anyone able to read just the first part, Isaiah 9:6?
Okay, I will read.
Thanks.
Isaiah 9:6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace.
Actually, you might as well go on, Ahmad, and just read those other ones as well. Just hold on. So starting at John 14:16.
John 14:16. All I will pray for, Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. John 14:26. But the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I have said unto you. And John 15:26, but when the Comforter is come, who I will send unto you from the Father, even the Spirit of truth, which proceedeth from the Father, he shall testify of me. And John 16:7, nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is expedient for you that I go away. For if I go not away, the Comforter will not come unto you. But if I depart, I will send him unto you.
Thanks, Ahmad. So Baha'u'llah says in the Summons of the Lord of Hosts that he says to, now the Summons of the Lord of Hosts is often referred to as the third temple. So as you're aware, there was two temples. They were both, the second temple was destroyed by the Romans. The first temple was destroyed by the Babylonians. And there was a prophecy that a third temple will be built. So Baha'u'llah has referred to these letters that he sent to all of the leaders of the world as the third temple. And in his letter to the Catholic Pope, he says clearly, this is the Father foretold by Isaiah, and the Comforter concerning him, concerning whom the Spirit Jesus have covenanted with you. So Baha'u'llah says that Isaiah 9:6 refers to me. Isaiah 9:6 says, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Now, often Christians say that this refers to Christ. And in a sense, the Messiah ben David, which is the Messiah, the anointed one with authority, is the same. So they all have the same spirit. So in a sense, you could say that Christ could be referred to as the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. But Baha'u'llah says, you know, to be more specific, this passage refers precisely to me. And then Christ says, as he's talking to his disciples, they're all aware that he's about to go to Jerusalem, and he may or probably will be executed or crucified. And he says, look, if you pray to the Father, then he shall give you another comforter, and he shall abide with you forever. So Christ says, after I'm crucified, then a comforter will come. And then it says, look, if I don't leave, if I don't go away, then the comforter will not come. And that's this covenant. It says, Baha'u'llah says, Christ entered a covenant with his disciples. And that was that when he dies, the comforter will come. And that is, Baha'u'llah says that he is the comforter. So I think the other thing I was going to talk about was Isaiah 11:10, and it says, and in that day there shall be a root of Jesse. So Jesse was the father of King David. And so this is also a prophecy about King David. And the other Messiah is the Messiah ben Joseph. So the Messiah ben Joseph is the suffering Messiah. And so everyone's aware of the story of Joseph. Joseph was the father of Jacob, and he, while Jacob went to Egypt, he was left at home, and his most beloved son for all intents and purposes, was lost. And then he came back after a very long time, and he was leading Egypt, and he brought his camas or his cloak with him, and he saw it, and then he began to cry. So whenever we have, there's two things that the Messiah or the appointed one or the manifestations of God possess, two attributes, and one is their extreme suffering, and the other one is their authority. So their extreme suffering represents the Baha'i, the Messiah Ben Joseph, and their authority is represented by the Messiah Ben David, who has that power and authority. But as we've explained before, the Son, each of the manifestations of God have the same spirit, and so each of them suffer to a similar extent, and each of them has authority. When the next manifestation comes, then the authority is with them. So there's another passage I came across, and that's Isaiah 24. And this is basically, it's about what happens after the destruction of Jerusalem, after the Romans attack it. And it's worth reading. I'm going to read through it myself. And when I get to number 22, so Isaiah 24:22, there's a very interesting part to it. And I think as Baha'is we'll probably have a bit of a aha moment, but probably that's only a Baha'i thing. So Isaiah 24 says, "Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turn it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof." So after Rome attacked Jerusalem, all the Jews had to leave, and all of Israel became empty. And the Romans called Israel Palestine, after the Philistines, who were non-Jews and who were living there. But essentially, the land it had Palestinians in it, but there was no great kingdoms. There was no great Palestinian kingdom. There was no great Palestinian rulers. It was pretty much, by the time Baha'u'llah got there, everything was pretty much desolate. There was just ruins everywhere. "And it shall be as with the Lord, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with the master, as with the maid, so with the mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury." So it's just saying every single Jew will be in the same boat. They'll have to leave Israel. "And the land will be utterly empty and utterly spoiled, and the Lord hath spoken his words." So once the sun was darkened and the moon no longer gave it light, and the stars fell from heaven, which is the closing of the Jewish period, then the land became desolate. "The earth mourned and fade away, the world languished and fade away, the hardy people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the law, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell thereof are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. The new wine mourneth, the vine languish, all the merry-hearted do sigh." So this whole chapter is about crying, destruction, desolation. It's just a very, very, very depressing, sad story. And that's exactly what happened, because remember, Isaiah wrote hundreds of years before the Romans destroyed Jerusalem. And then it gets down to 19, and it says, "The earth is utterly broken down, the earth is clean, dissolved, the earth is moved exceedingly." So remember, the earth represents the human heart, the earth of the human heart. So this is talking about the human heart was broken. The earth is clean, dissolved, the earth is moved exceedingly. "The earth shall rule to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgressions thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again." So it's talking again, death, destruction. And then 21, it says, "And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth." But then it says, number 22, after all this desolation of Israel and the land, then something happens. it says, and they shall be gathered together as prisoners and gathered in the pit and shall be shut up in the prison, and after many days they'll be shall visited. So does that remind anyone of anything, that there was a group of people that shall be gathered together as prisoners? They were underground in a pit, and then after many days they were visited by the Holy Spirit, and after that and many days they shall be visited. So as a Baha'i, does anyone connect with that particular passage?
Well, persecution of the Baha'is.
So can you recall any incident when they were in a pit and they received a visitation?
Well, Baha'u'llah was prisoned in a pit in Tehran for 4 months.
So when I read that passage, it talks about the desolation of Israel, and then it talks about people being put in a prison and put underground. I mean, it seems pretty clear to me that as a Baha'i, it's quite an interesting passage. So does anyone else feel that way? Any of the Baha'is that are present?
Yes. Baha'u'llah's time in Shiacha.
That's right. So I guess this is just really an example of things that are written all throughout the Bible. There's two Baha'is, there's little passages put here and there. And when we read it, we go, oh, I get it. Okay, so this is what happened. This is talking about Baha'u'llah now. And then 23 says, then the moon shall be confounded and the sun ashamed when the Lord of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem before his ancient glory. So we talked about the moon. The moon shall be confounded. So during Baha'u'llah's time, or when they were in the Siyachal, the moon would have been Ali. So he would have been confounded, and the sun would have been Muhammad. So this is prior to Baha'u'llah receiving his revelation. And the Lord of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion. So does anyone know what a mountain represents in religion? Because there's always references to mountains. Is anyone aware what a mountain represents in religion? In the Old Testament, the New Testament, in the Quran? Okay, so I'll just read the Quran. And if you go to Surah 101...
It's religion itself. Yeah?
That's very close, Ahmad. So if we go to Surah 101, ayat 5, it says, and so the previous ayat is number 4. It says, the day will be the mankind like moth scattered. And then number 5 says, and will be the mountains like wool fluffed up. So the mountains there represent governments of the day. The government of the day is the mountain, and it will be dispersed like clouds, or in this translation, it shall be dispersed like carded wool or fluffed up wool. And so in this particular passage that I just read, it talks about the Lord of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem and before his ancient glory. So does anyone know what Mount Zion represents? If mountains represent governments, does anyone know what Mount Zion represents, or can think what Mount Zion would represent?
Well, Mount Zion is the mountain that Moses went and spoke with the fire tree. Yeah.
So Mount Zion is in Jerusalem, and it basically represents the Jewish government in Jerusalem. So it represents the Jewish authority in Jerusalem. But also, if you read through Carmel, the tablet of Carmel, I'll just open it up now and read it. So when in tablet of Carmel, it says, call out to Zion, O Carmel, and announce the joyful tidings. So Carmel there is calling to Zion. So there are two mountains. One is Mount Carmel, one is Mount Zion. So Mount Carmel represents the Universal House of Justice. That's our government. That's where authority comes from the Baha'i religion. So it's saying here, call out Zion, which is the government, the previous government that was in Jerusalem is calling to Carmel, which is the Universal House of Justice. So this particular passage here is saying, and when the Lord of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem and before his ancient gloriously. So when it talks about Mount Zion or Zionists, there's a connection here between the Universal House of Justice. So you could say Zion or Zionism is actually about, because it talks in the Bible, it talks about authority coming forth from Mount Zion. So it's really talking about the Universal House of Justice. So this, I guess, that's sort of a beginning, sort of a launching pad, really, for talking about the biblical Messiah. I mean, the main thing that, the main message or the main thing that helps us reread the Bible with eyes of looking at the Messiah is this concept of the Messiah ben Joseph and the Messiah ben David. So I guess at this point, I guess it's time to sort of open it up and ask questions. If anyone, so Rosine, Elham, Jung, or Pio, has anyone got any questions that you want to ask or we can talk about now?
And please use the reaction button so that we get an orderly queue.
Okay. I don't think I can see that reaction button there.
No, there's nobody's put their hand up yet. So
oh, right, okay.
Perhaps I'll go first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Roger. That's intriguing because we all learn from each other and we all have different interests. Whatever religion we are, I'm sure we have a passion in some aspect of it. And prophecy is something I don't know much about at all. I was curious about the 7 days of creation in Genesis being symbolic of 7 revealed religions currently in the world. And I was wondering if that was something you've come up with yourself or you've found that. Do any other scholars come to that conclusion? And the reason I'm asking is because it would need a bit of exploration to say how the sun and the moon came into being at the time of Buddha and man came into being at the time of Muhammad, that kind of thing.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. So the sun, moon, and stars, we know what they represent because Baha'u'llah has told us what the sun, moon, and stars represent. So it's really convergence. I mean, I haven't heard of any other Baha'i scholar or any other persons saying Genesis 1 is all about progressive revelation. So it's really just bringing together threads from different areas, from trying to put all the threads together and build an argument for progressive revelation, because that's really the cornerstone of the Baha'i religion, I think, the fact that each religion represents one religion. And the threads are the sun, moon, and stars, which Baha'u'llah tells us what they mean. The threads are, we know that every 1,000 years a manifestation of God comes along, because that's what Baha'u'llah said. And the threads are every day represents 1,000 years. So if there's 7 days, there's 7,000 years, and there's 7 religions of God. So the conflict is obviously the fact that Baha'is believe in 9 messengers of God, 9 manifestations of God, whereas the Genesis is talking about 7 manifestations of God, or it's talking about 7 days and 7 1,000-year periods. So how can you reconcile the 7 with the 9? I mean, that's really the issue for me that I've put a little bit of thought into. And so it's what I tried to work out is what is a day, and when does a day start, when does a day end, what happens during a day. The sun comes out firstly, and then in the evening the moon and the stars come out, and the moon and the stars represent the religion. And so there's according to the Genesis, there's 7 days and 7 religions. Where's the other 2, I guess? So to answer your question, no, that's no other scholar has come up with that sort of that analysis, or that sort of, what would you say, interpretation of Genesis 1. And I think the only way to work out whether there's any validity in it is to discuss it and see if other people have some other insight where they can dispute, or perhaps even just say, no, that's outright wrong, and here's the reason that it's wrong. So the only way to sort of progress the idea really is to sort of discuss it. But yeah, that's I think that's a great objection. And the conflict is obviously 9 manifestations of God for Baha'is and 7 for Jews, I guess, which hard to reconcile, really.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile 9 and 7?
Yeah, that can be something we can talk about tonight. And we've got a little bit of time, and thank you for that. It's good to see original research, because your previous talk a few months ago had original research, and it really struck a chord with me.
Colin, can I mention something before Jung asked the question regarding this?
Yep, go right ahead.
Yeah. I think the conflict can be resolved by what Baha'u'llah has said about Adamic cycle and Baha'i cycle. And I think the 7 manifestations are part of the Adamic cycle, and Bab and Baha'u'llah are not on that cycle. They are in the Baha cycle, which will go for 500,000 years according to the Baha'i writings. So you cannot include Bab and Baha'u'llah as those that were part of the Adamic cycle.
Yep, that would resolve it.
Right, you can keep your hand up, Ahmed, if you've got another question. Jung, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your lecture. It's quite interesting. Some people might think it's a metaphoric idea or figurative meanings, and very, it's very subjective. It means that it's up to each scholar how they read the Bible and how they interpret it. What I'm saying is, if God have all the power right from the beginning, and he said, let there be light, then there was light. And then there's a bracket, spiritual light. So if God has all the power right from the beginning, if he only created holy human being, then we will not need so many manifestations of God return to earth every 1,000 years. If the only holy people come about, but here, according to the order, the progressive progress, as you say, you have vegetable, animal created, and then human. So obviously the vegetable, animal there for the human to be born and consumed. So the human at that time didn't say they're holy people, and therefore create a lot of problem later on, because all the manifestation of God had to come back to us every 1,000 years or whatever that they needed to be coming down to sort out all the issue and all the evil and all the dark forces and everything there. So I don't know why we're supposed to be progressive. Progress, like good thing, but not like when good things start to mount up and then it got pulled down again. People are supposed to be holy, but in a reverse way, they go back to the other side. more like a contradiction of the theory of evolution and progress. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good, Jung. I like that because I mean, what a lot of people who are a particular religion, for example, you say you're a Muslim, or Muslims believe that they're the last religion, that there is no more religions after Islam, and that religion has been perfected, and that's how it'll remain for eternity. And I've spoken to Christians who also believe that, look, Christ may return, he may come back to earth, but it's still Christ. So Christ really is the perfection. There is no need for any other religions, because Christianity really resolves all problems. So I can see your line of thinking. The line of thinking is, why do you need 9 manifestations of God? Why do you need another religion when, for example, you might believe that your religion is perfect and will last for eternity? So I guess the way that I think about it is that it's like saying, oh, okay, well, we're on the earth, we're on the planet. Why don't we just have daylight for the 80 years that I'm on the planet? Why do we need moons and stars? Why don't we just have day 48 hours a day, or 24 hours a day? And so I guess also you think about, for example, trees. Why does God plant a tree and then everyone waters it and it grows and it produces fruit, and then one day a bushfire comes along and burns it down? Why do things get burnt down? So, what's the point? The whole process, So I guess I think what you're thinking is valid, and I think it's an argument that any Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist could argue, that there is no need for any more religions because my religion is perfect. But I guess the universe or the world has cycles. It has cycles of summer, spring, autumn, and winter. And there's a purpose in the cycle. There's a purpose for life and death and regeneration and rebirth, and for night and day, and there's a purpose for all these cycles. So I don't know if it resolves your question, but that's the way I think about it.
Yes, thank you. There's another notion too. The spirit of man has a beginning, but it has no end. It continues eternally. The spirit of man. Now we talk about the Holy Spirit or the non-Holy Spirit man. Because with the spirit of man, it can continue eternally, but you don't want any non-holy man has a beginning and continues eternally. Then we will create disaster.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in what you just say there, because the reading that we read out in the beginning of this meeting was a Hindu scripture, and it said that the Bahá'í has no beginning and no end. And as Baha'is, we believe that the soul has a beginning but no end. And when we're talking about the soul, we're talking about the human spirit, or we're talking about the spirit and the soul as one thing. So we're talking about the intelligent aspects of human life, I guess you would say. But the way that I think about it is that both of these ideas can be correct. If you think about the sun is created as a result of a supernova that explodes, and all the heavy elements get shattered all throughout the universe. And then after many, many millions and billions of years, then these heavy elements start to coalesce into one single object, which it becomes individualized. It becomes, instead of having thousands of heavy metals all around the universe, they coalesce through gravity, through the force of gravity, into a sun. And when the sun reaches that point where it starts to the hydrogen and the helium start to create, because of the forces to create nuclear reactions, then the sun becomes to individualize. It's no longer all these particles. It's now an individualized sun, and that's its beginning. So it's a little bit like the human being. The human being becomes individualized at the moment of conception. It's no longer part of this pre-existent human spirit, which is the same for all of us. We're all part of this one human spirit that coalesces when we're all given a body and a spirit together, and that happens at the moment of conception. So in a sense, you can say that we're eternal because the human spirit has always been and always will be, but it becomes individualized at the moment of conception. So is that individualization, is that the beginning of the spirit, or is that is just a different phase of the spirit? So that's how I see the argument. I don't know what you think, Colin. Do you think that the soul has a beginning, a point in time, or is it eternal in prior to existence?
Probably another question, but it brings into discussion the concept of time, and that the way physicists what they're discovering about time changes everything.
But then, sorry, I had to recall what I heard from the social media SBS channel. They had a meeting and they said that we are not ready for oneness. One of the ladies said, okay, the energy of the human being have come down very low. We need new energy come from the universe. And it means that the comeback of the Messiah, the return of manifestation, that's what they said. And she said, the children will not understand it. I can only understand, but I don't know anybody else can understand it. We are not ready for oneness because she reckoned that the energy that come down so low, they cannot reach oneness.
Go ahead, Colin.
So, no, you go, Roger. I was going to make sure everyone gets a chance to ask questions, but please, Roger.
I'm just not quite sure how to connect that to what the premise of the argument is.
No, because you mentioned about individual, like the conception time and the body and the spirit, and that each features in the individual. But then how come we talk about oneness here?
Oh, I see. So when we become individualized, we're no longer one in spirit. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So prior to conception, we're all part of one human spirit, which is some nebulous thing that exists in another realm. You know, it's not physical. It's more probably akin to electromagnetic radiation, which travels in waves. So that would be more the relationship between the spirit and the physical world. So we're all one in this human spirit, which exists in a metaphysical realm or the realm of the electromagnetic spectrum. And then when we're conceived, that particular spirit is joined with a physical body. It becomes individualized, and then we're no longer one in spirit. We all become individuals. And then we carry out our life through 80 years or 90 years, and then the body disappears, and then the soul continues its journey to become reunited with God through some other process which we're not aware of, which is timeless and spaceless. But the ultimate goal is to be reunited again with God. So I guess in a sense you're right. As we live on this earth, we're not united, we're not one, where we all have separate individual bodies, separate thoughts, separate ideas. We're all separated. So I think you're right. I think it's very difficult to argue that mankind is one, because you can look around and every single man and every single woman is not one. We're different.
Thank you, Roger. I don't want to be oneness with the baddies.
Good point. All right, thank you, Jung. Ahmed.
Yeah, can I say something about question of Jung? I think the solution is that God has created us with free will. So with free will, you can do bad things and good things, and then man needs guidance, and that's why God sends these manifestations to guide us through these spiritual qualities. And these, what we read was a quotation from Baha'u'llah that's saying that I'd like to see you guys live together as one man and eat like one person, dwell on as one person. What he means is that you have to work on your spirituality so that your spirituality, the quality of your spirituality is in such a level that you become united. And that's the aim of Baha'i Faith, to unite the humanity by bringing these efforts to, teach people to have these spiritual qualities among each other. But my question is about, well, see, Baha'u'llah has also used the Genesis as a metaphor for man and its spirit and how it goes through the worlds of God. So my question is that why in the past these things were described as riddles or in a hidden way that people cannot, clearly extract these thoughts out of these metaphors.
I don't quite understand the question, Ahmed. Sorry.
Well, if you look at the Bible's quotations that we read, anybody can put some, different meaning to it.
Yep.
And I'm asking, why is that? Why they're in a riddle form rather than clear form?
Clear form. Oh, yeah, I get you. Yep. Okay. So, for example, the idea of Zion. So you've got a whole lot of people in Israel now who are called Zionists. They're fighting for Zion, and they understand that Zion means a mountain. It means a simple hill that's in Jerusalem, and that's what their religion is about. But for Baha'is, we have a different interpretation of Mount Zion being the universal house of justice. So
Mount Carmel, yeah.
Mount Carmel. Well, Carmel calls out to Zion, so the two are connected. So and Zion, it talks about Mount Zion in the Bible. It talks about how instructing. It's providing guidance to the rest of the world, or sending out guidance. So why is it hidden? Why didn't it just say in the Bible, okay, the universal house of justice is going to be established in, after Shoghi Effendi passes away in 1958, the universal house of justice will be established. And can everyone just stop praying to Jesus and Muhammad and Moses, and then start directing your attention towards the universal house of justice? So why doesn't it say that in the Bible? Why does it leave up to us to interpret what Mount Zion means and what Mount Carmel means? I guess it's really because we're being tested, and because each thing, I think the word for it is humanetics, or Colin could help me with this one.
Yeah, hermeneutics.
Hermeneutics. So each person has a subjective understanding of the world, and through hermeneutics, they can interpret what particular things mean. So because the Bible is hermetically sealed, then not everyone reads the same words with the same intention. But if you're a pure person and you have pure intentions, then you can read the Bible in such a way that you'll be searching for a particular thing at a particular point in time, and you will come across it, and then you'll become a Baha'i. So in a way, the Bible is, through hermeneutics, is testing every single individual, and some individuals just aren't pure enough in spirit to understand what the particular words mean. So it's, I guess the answer to your question is, I believe, is that the Bible is it's a test to each individual.
Yeah, my other solution would be that the key to these riddles or things that could parables that could give the history for the future is in the hand of the next manifestation that comes, and then he gives the key to us how to understand these parables. That's another way of looking at it, in my view. But you're right.
Yeah, I guess going back, I've had a little bit of time to think about your idea that Baha'u'llah is part of a new cycle. But when I think about it, the Baha'i cycle is there's always the number of 9, because each cycle occurs in 9. So each 9 is the number of perfection. 9 is the last number in a series. The next number is a 1 and a 0. So it's a combination of the previous cycle. So in Baha'i, the cycle always begins and ends with 9. Okay, so in that sense, Baha'u'llah has explained that the Baha'i cycle is 9. There are 9 manifestations of God. 9 is the number of perfection. The Bab had 9 throughout everything he wrote. Had the number 9 in it. Baha'u'llah, everything he has is the number 9. So the 9 is the number of completion and perfection. It's a cycle is contained in 9. So if Baha'is believe that a cycle, and I don't when you say Baha'u'llah is the next cycle, if he's the next cycle, then he would be 1 instead of 9. What do you think about that? We're just discussing possibilities here. I'm not quite sure myself.
Well, he describes that there are big cycles of these revelations and cycles that come within that big cycles. And he says that Adam was the beginning of Adamic cycle, and the manifestations that came after him, they were under the rule of the concept that Adam has brought. But he says that now me as a new manifestation of God have ended that cycle, and I have started a new cycle, a new big cycle that will be long as 500,000 years. And he says that not less than another 1,000 years, another manifestation will come. So he says that other manifestations that will come will base the concepts of leading the humanity under the banner of the Baha'i cycle. So if you look at the past religions, you see that Moses talks about Adam, Christ talks about Adam, Muhammad talks about Adam. Abraham and all those under the cycle of Adam, they describe things that they say that Adam was the first manifestation. But we know that humanity has existed long, more than 100,000 years or so. So obviously there have been other dispensations previous Adam that had concepts there, but they have vanished and Adamic cycle has started. And Baha'u'llah says that, okay, I have started a new cycle. And this new cycle, vision of God that will come, will be not before another 1,000 years.
Yeah, I think it's possible, what you say is possible, that Moses believed that he was part of a seven-day cycle, a seven manifestation of God cycle. But then when you think about the Baha'is always have 9, it's always about 9. There's always 9 in a cycle. And we talk about the 9 prophets. You've got Adam, you've got Krishna, you've got Zoroaster, you've got Buddha, you've got Moses, you've got Muhammad, and you've got the Bab.
Oh, you
and
see,
you've
with
got
the number,
Baal. So you've got 9 messengers of God, and the 9 is the cycle of fulfillment. So 9 is the completion of a cycle. So the Baha'i faith is all about 9. So if you start saying 7 is a cycle, if you start saying the Adamic cycle was 7, well, you're not really talking within the Baha'i context, because the Baha'i
I'm
context
saying that
is a 7-stage cycle.
I'm saying that the 7 manifestations are the manifestations that we have data from, previous they're not 7 manifestations from the cycle of Adam. There were more manifestations before these 7, but their essence have disappeared because history has destroyed all the evidences. Yeah. But number 9, it comes from Bob, and Bob used a language that was a religious language, which is called Abjad. And Abjad is a language where for every character in Arabic and Persian, a number is allocated. For example, A is 1, B is 2, and the word Baha means 9. So the Bab has based everything on number 9 because it's the name of Baha in Abjad language. It really doesn't have anything to do with 9 manifestations and things like that, I think. So
it's an interesting idea. I guess we can't really, I think I would have to develop my argument that the 7 days of creation represent 7 religions as opposed to 7 messengers of God a little bit more thoroughly to sort of deal with objections, because as I said before, I've brought things together that I've believed that the creation myth is really about a cycle of messengers of God.
yeah, true.
So I guess it's a bit of a mystery at the moment. We can't really say either way.
Yeah, John's Revelation talks about the same, but I think Colin has got a question, so I'll leave it here.
Oh, hi, Colin. Yep, you got a question?
Yeah, just a comment and a question. I think you said one of the reasons why people are not understanding the prophecies within their own scriptures is perhaps they're not pure enough spiritually. But I think it's more than that. I think there's plenty of pure spiritual people in every religion, and we've had many in this group. But I think it's more that, for example, the prophecy of Daniel, which is quoted in Matthew 24, and I think Daniel says, "What does this mean?" And the response he gets, I can't remember if it's from God or probably from God, is "Go your way. The meaning of the scriptures is sealed up until the end of time." And then there's prophecies which explain that it'll be in 2,300 days, which is 2,300 years, that kind of thing. So in other words, it's almost impossible to understand prophecy because the meaning of it is actually sealed until the time comes. And so that raises a question: what's the purpose of prophecy, and what's the value of it if does it actually convince anybody? I'm just wondering what do you think about prophecy? Can it be convincing?
Well, my belief is that it's absolutely no convincing. I've never heard of anyone being convinced by the Baha'i interpretation of symbolic language. and the symbolic application of the various terms in the Bible and what their true meaning is. I've never heard of anyone being convinced by that. It's always people become Baha'i through a change in heart. They become, they fall in love with Baha'u'llah, and it's not through the language of symbolism that they become Baha'is. So I guess it's one of those mysteries, the mysteries of God, you know, why create symbolic language? I don't think you can say that it has a specific purpose in terms of directing people in the right direction, but it does help with timing, because there's a lot of Christians that are just not waiting for a new messenger of God, and there are a lot of Christians, like I was myself, that are saying, okay, well, it's about timing. It's there is a new messenger of God, and I'm going to try and find out where he is. You know, so it helped me in a sense, because I was told when I was doing confirmation as a Christian, that the return of Christ was imminent. And we went through the Bible and we had a look at the fact that the Jewish state had been recreated. And we looked at all the facts that in the Bible, and it says, okay, all these things have happened, children. This old guy, his old farmer that was telling us, he says, children, I was only like 13 years old, Christ is here. It's up to you guys to go out and find it. I don't know where he is or what he is, but you little children, that's your job. So in a sense, I think that the symbolic language was useful. You know, it was useful in that particular instance. It was useful for me.
Yeah, I think you've hit on an important point. You know, prophecy can point to an approximate time and place, but you know, if it was so specific that it said, well, it's this address in this country at this time, and it'll be this person in the house, you know, well, prophecy isn't that specific. If it was, people would still argue.
But if you think about Sheikh Ahmad and Syed Kazim, right? They just said to all their followers, look, guys, I don't know where he is or who he is, but he's in the world. Go out and find him. You know, that was the conclusion of all that prophecy, that had come down to those two guys.
Yeah, and I think that's the value of prophecy for Christians and other religions, is that it's a placeholder. It means part of their fundamental beliefs is that they should be looking, and they should be open to the idea that Jesus will return. And of course, sometimes, it doesn't matter which religion you're in, you'll find a quote which says, oh, well, we don't really have to look. It'll just come to us, or someone will tell us. So there are barriers or reasons for people to be exclusive. But on the whole, I think the value is that there's a placeholder, and that and when if someone is a seeker, then they will find.
Yeah. So we've still got Rosine and Jiva and Pina, Delphin Lim from Malaysia, and we've got, you haven't asked any questions yet. Did you want to? We've got plenty of time at the moment, so it's definitely open to you guys if you have any questions. Rosine, did you have any questions?
Hello, thank you. Sorry, I was listening. It's very, very interesting, but I have the children. It's too noisy. That's why I didn't want to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about Jiva? Did you have any questions?
I like to say something because about the prophecies, but most of us think that Hinduism, the Krishna is the manifestation for started the Hinduism, but there are many more before Krishna, which normally as Baha'is we don't talk about it. So that servant doesn't agree with, if we take into consider all the prophecies before Krishna, prophets before Krishna, I don't think the 7 and the 9 will be, we cannot say that there were only 7 or 9. It is much more than that.
Yeah, you're right, Jiva. That's a good question because Hinduism talks about Shiva reincarnating or
Shiva.
Vishnu, Shiva being, say, an incarnation of Vishnu. So you've got 10 incarnations of Vishnu. And each time an incarnation of Vishnu comes, you also have progress, right? So there's one incarnation which is a fish, and the next one is something more complicated, and the one after that is more complicated. So there's also, if you notice in the incarnations of Vishnu, that each one is more developed than the one before it. So, and there's 10. It's a good question because Baha'is are always talking about 9, and Jews are always talking about 7. But you're right, there were a lot more incarnations of Vishnu before Krishna. And Krishna, in fact, is apparently about the 8th. So there were 7 incarnations of Vishnu before Krishna. So you're right. It's I guess it's an interesting question. I think it's a little bit sort of vague, to be honest, because if there was 7 incarnations of Vishnu before Krishna, then are they within the Adamic cycle, or are they in a previous cycle? Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I don't know the answer for that, but I know there were many before Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess but Hinduism does talk about the Kali Yuga. So the Kali Yuga is the final stage of before the Atman, or the final incarnation of Vishnu comes along. So, but that doesn't answer your questions about the previous incarnations. You were going to say something, Colin?
I think Abdul Baha said that prior to history, because written history has only been for a few thousand years prior to history, there's been many God's always guided mankind. He's never left them alone. Salvation didn't just start at a certain point. He's always guided people. I think the Muslims have tried to calculate how many, and they came up with, I think it was 180,000 by some method. But who knows? It's all prehistory, and the world and people have existed for a long time.
Thanks very much, Jiva, for the question.
I think Pina is there.
Yeah, Pina, did you have a question?
Yes, this is very interesting topic because I came from Christian background as well. We were not very religious. It was because my father's idea that when the Jehovah's Witness, they came to my place and talked to my father. And so I overheard my father telling, there is only one God, there's only one Jesus Christ, there's only one Holy Bible. And why do you say that your faith is the straight path compared to the others who are also Christians? How can that possible? So I was thinking as well. I said, and I was embarrassed because why my father is speaking like that. And when I found the Baha'i faith, uniting all the religions, and there is only one God, and they, like Krishna, Buddha, Moses, I came to know more, not only Jesus Christ. And these are the divine teachers from God, and God is the one who gave the divine teachings to humanity, and the same God. So it should not contradict, because like my head is the commander to my members of my body. If I comb my hair with my right hand, the other hand should support. It doesn't say, don't do that. It doesn't say that. They are one, because the commander is one. Same thing with the messengers or manifestations of God, they are one. And recently someone asked me, you were Catholic, you're from Philippines, you were Catholic. I said, yes. So now you are no more Catholic, because he knows that I became a Baha'i. And I said, becoming a Baha'i is for me is becoming a better Christian. Why? Because I have accepted the second coming of Christ. I have accepted the first coming, and now is the second coming of Jesus Christ. And then he was surprised because sometimes they think that when you have another faith to them, other than them, their faith, that means you don't believe in the same faith anymore. But when I found the Baha'i faith, I read to my father, I think this is the religion that you want. Because you were talking there's only one God, one Jesus Christ, one Holy Bible. And why should there be differences? It must be one, isn't it? So when I read to him, he agreed in everything. So, I cannot thank God enough that I found the Baha'i faith that is uniting everyone. Realizing that there's only one God. And then we can be one in faith, one common faith, one understanding. All we need is that as individual, we need to spiritualize ourselves, because individually we need to try to go deep, meditate on the words of God, because it's the words of God that is purifying our hearts, that is making us understand the spiritual teachings. So individually we strive to find the truth, but the teachings is only one. It's not different. The source is only one God. Thank you.
And did your father become a Baha'i, Pina?
He accepted. He accepted. He accepted verbally, and he agreed in everything that I did. When I left for pioneering, I went home. I was already pioneering in Thailand, and then I have to come back because I got married and we decided to pioneer to Africa. I went back home to say goodbye to my parents, to my father especially, because my mother died when I was 1 year, 9 months. And so I went to say goodbye to my father, because I will be away and I cannot easily come back. So he asked me when I will come back again. I said, maybe it takes time, maybe 5 years. And then he said, I will be gone by then. He wasn't well. And it's true enough, I was in Africa when he passed away.
Oh, that's a beautiful story, Pina, because I went to my parents as well, and I said, look, this is Baha'u'llah's here. He's the second coming, and neither my father nor my mother accepted Baha'u'llah, and they didn't say anything nasty to me, but they just didn't accept Baha'u'llah. So you're very lucky that your father accepted Baha'u'llah, and it seems to me like your father actually taught you the religion, because he taught you the principle.
He was like the one who opened that idea. Right. So when I found the Baha'i, I read the new garden. I was actually cleaning the house, wiping the books. I opened a new garden. I thought I was going to see flowers and beautiful trees and plants. And it says how to know God. That's the first book I read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's even multiplied beautiful, because your father taught it and then he accepted the Baha'i faith. So that's an amazing experience.
Roger, can you unshare your thing so that we can see everyone together?
Share what?
Unshare your document.
The screen so that everybody can be seen.
Yep. Okay.
Can I share something here for a minute?
Yeah, just quickly, Ahmed, and then we've got Roseanne.
Yeah, it's regarding to this question of symbolisms. This is from Kitab Iran. It says, know verily that the purpose underlying all these symbolic terms and abstruse illusions, which emanate from the revealers of God's holy cause, had been to test and prove the peoples of the world, that thereby the earth of the pure and illuminated hearts may be known from the perishable and barren soul. From time immemorial, such had been the way of God amidst his creatures, and to this testify the records of the sacred books.
Yeah, thanks, Ahmad.
So
Thank you very
much.
Rosine.
Thank you, Colin. Hello. I was hearing all the interesting commentaries and intervention. It's very, very interesting topic, but unfortunately we don't have so many times. And I just wanted to add from my side that as a believer since long time with the experiences I had, I understood that the meaning of the religion is to pure our heart. Wherever we are Baha'i, Christian, or Muslims, it's just to pure our heart. Why? Because when we have the pure heart, we have the capability to understand the message of God. God is pure. So it's like Baha'u'llah says in the writing, you cannot combine the fire and the water. So if we want to listen and understand God, we have to be pure because he is pure. If we are impure, we can never understand him. And secondly, the other side of the world is that the world is based on evolution, development. That's why we have the religion, the role of the religion, and the role of the science. And if you see on the side of the science, the first discovering until today, the science had also so many difficulties until today. They discover so many things which bring the humanity to a certain level of living, of perfection. And the religion also is playing the spiritual role on the humanity. That's why we cannot say that we don't need a religion or we don't need a science. We need both. So, and Baha'u'llah explained clearly by using the example of the human body. He says, when you see the human body, you cannot say if one is ill, the other organs can continue. No, it's going to affect all the organs. And the science has discovered that as a human being, we have all the same essence. We are atoms and we are connected with the nature together as a human being and all with others nature creatures, for example, vegetables and animals. And this combination, this connection is obliging us to come together. We cannot say each part should live on his own and he will be happy. It's impossible. So the human being is the proof with the different organs. And if we go back, for example, on 2019 or 20, when coronavirus started. So it was the time for the humanity to understand we cannot, you cannot just reject another one like you, because by the end, which class, social class, everybody got infected. The poor can infect the rich can infect the poor, the doctor can infect, I don't know, the architect. Is wherever we are, if somebody has coronavirus, it can infect the others. Why? Because we have this connection as a human being. We have this connection with the other's nature. And this connection is obliging us to come together because the problem of the others is also affecting the others, each others. So knowing this knowledge, we are obliged through the religion and through the science to come together and to work together if we want that everybody or all the world becomes happy. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Rosine. And Jung had a question as well.
Yeah, one belong. Thank you very much. I want belong. There are few notions here. First of all, I haven't heard any prophets so far that I've been learning from this program. I haven't heard any prophets admitted themselves, compare themselves as the second return of Christ. They said that, I feel like the second coming of Jesus. None of the prophets ever told everybody that he is the return of Christ. That's one thing. The second thing is, you talk about human had to be pure to receive God. And as we know that human being created by dust, so I wonder, this is only my wondering, if ever human being were created by the snow, because the snow is different from the soil. And whatever dust or soil or snow on earth, they are three different things, and whether God will choose one of them to create human being. So what I'm saying is, people do have different sort of features, and sometimes I see somebody, I said, oh, that person must be created from the snow. Oh, that person must be created from the sea. Or oh, that person must be created from the mountains. Because they're just different, that's all. And we talk about the other issue is prophecy. If you just remind you about the apparition of Virgin Mary to the three children about Lord, about the apparition of Mary in Lord, she told the children, talk to the people, that they should pray the rosary big, because mentioned like talk about the war coming and people had to do confession and everything, you know. So therefore, prophecy is then very useful, and it's like Ahmad said, it guiding people. But the problem, like Colin also mentioned, whether people listen to the prophecy that came before them or not, whether they trust in the prophecy or they only laugh at it. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so the first one was about the fact that no messenger of God has ever said they're the return of Christ. That's
The
true.
return of Christ, yeah. I mean, like they
That's
never. You can feel that you accept, you know, your new religion, and you feel like you just notice that might be, you know, the new prophet is a returning of Christ. So
Yep.
that is your subjective idea, but that subjective idea is your idea, and not to be able to educate other people, because otherwise you are misleading them. You confuse the people, and you confuse a whole lot of things. So we need to clarify very clearly when we do the group learning like this.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're true. The no messenger of God has ever said they're the return of Christ. So, and the reality is that
Baha'u'llah said, yeah, he is the return of Christ.
Baha'u'llah said he's the comforter, and he said he is the what else did he say? He's the there was two things that I read out in those readings, but he didn't say he is the return of Christ. He said he's the comforter, and Christ said, if I go away, then the comforter will come. But you know, as Jung said, there's none of them. Baha'u'llah didn't say, I am the return of Christ, you know. Or the Bab never said, I am John the Baptist. You know, they always they never say that. So I can't really, you know, I think you got a point, Jung. I mean, there's a million reasons not to believe in the Baha'i faith, and that could be one of them, that Baha'u'llah never said, I am the return of Christ. So I've got no comeback for that. That's absolutely correct.
All right, look, that sounds like a good topic for another day. Thank you, Jung, for proposing that topic. And I think the topic for today, which was presentation from one Baha'i's viewpoint, was very, very worthwhile, because it shows the importance of individual search for truth, for going into the writings and scriptures for ourselves and trying to understand them for ourselves, not necessarily just repeating what our local minister or whoever has said to us. So an example, a good example, Roger, of independent research with some very interesting conclusions and whetted our appetite for that whole subject. So
Thanks very much, Colin, and thanks everyone too for listening.
Thank you, Roger.
Roger.